What's scarier than Pennywise? A 2 hour and 49-minute runtime. It Chapter 2 arrives in movie theaters, and it's longer than Avengers Endgame. Yes, it's 2 hours and 49 minutes of a horror film. Now, that's unprecedented. Horror films tend to be 90 minutes, 100 minutes, so they're really pushing it here. And let me start out positive though. It was scarier than the first one, but not necessarily better. The first one I love because of the dynamic between the kids. It's a horror version of Stand By Me, and those kids were just amazing. So how do you repeat the magic of that? Like in the Stephen King book, Pennywise returns 30 plus years later, and the Losers Club, as adults, have to form a bond again and fulfill their promise to regroup if Pennywise ever came back. So obviously that's the story. Getting to that part took a long time. James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain, I mean, they're good actors, but I don't think they captured the essence of the originals like Bill Hader did, and James Ransoni, I think that's his name, who plays the older Eddie. The young version of Eddie is Jack Dylan Grazer. He was also in Shazam. And Finn Wolfhand is, as always, very entertaining, very funny. Of course, you know him from Stranger Things. So you have that element of the young Losers Club. The adult cast wasn't as strong as the young cast, I thought. I think all of them are very damaged as adults, and that was kind of like the bummer of it. That you have these children, although they have their home issues, and one of them is being abused at home, they were still able to leave that behind when they were together with the Losers Club. It was just like an escapist kind of thing. And as adults, it's kind of a bummer, actually. I actually remember thinking in the movie, like, man, it sucks to be a grown-up. It actually does. You would have way more fun as a kid, unless you had, of course, a traumatic childhood. You wouldn't. But yeah, so that was kind of a bummer, that these adults are so damaged, and it's just that they weren't, I mean, there's some fun moments with them as grown-ups, but for the most part, they're damaged goods. And that's the problem going into the film. How are you going to replicate the magic that they brought to it, the movie? And the problem is, in this movie, they tried to, but it was a little heavy-handed. They would flashback to the Losers Club as kids, but it just didn't work. And what happened is you had a really, really, really long runtime, and you feel it. I mean, I was fidgeting in my seat. It was really, the middle section, Act 2, was just really boring. Act 1, it takes 50 minutes, I think, or 45 minutes for the characters to arrive back in Derry. Yes, it makes sense that we have to see what their adult lives are like, but it just takes forever for them to get back to Derry after being called by Mike, after there's been a Pennywise sighting. And that brings me to another point. There are a lot of scenes here that I feel could have been cut. The movie at the start seemed like a Law and Order intro, where, you know, in Law and Order you have strangers finding a body or eyewitness to some event. Here, at the beginning of the film, we have a gay couple at the Derry Festival. They're talking about their upcoming wedding, and of course there's some bullies. One child and one adult bully who starts to harass them. And it gets ugly, of course. But I'm looking at one of the men in the gay as a couple, and I'm thinking, is that one of the Losers Club as adults? I'm a little lost, so I don't know what's going on. Who are these people? And then we don't see him at all for the rest of the film. So the bully gets away with doing what he did, this horrible act of violence, and it just pretty much sets up Pennywise. That was it. You never saw these people again in the movie, so that's why it felt like a Law and Order moment where they discover the body or you get a body. And Mike, like in the book, he makes the calls to all his loser club friends, who at this point they're no longer friends. They don't keep in touch. And then we go into each of their adult lives as before they get the call. So yeah, like I mentioned, it's a little necessary, but it just felt way too long to get to the dairy, for them to get to dairy and start acting on this. Then in Act 2, after there's some convincing the group that they need to form a group again and go after Pennywise, you have each of them go their separate ways, and they have to find a token from their childhood, and this is going to be part of how they're going to defeat Pennywise. So we follow each of them, and this is where we see the kids, the young Losers Club, in flashbacks. Some of them are really good. Beverly, played by Jessica Chastain as the adult, goes back to the apartment where she lived with her father, and that scene was really good. It was really, really freaky with this woman. They showed it in the trailer, and that part was really good. That one really got me. The other ones, I can't even remember. Yeah, they weren't as equally as scary as Beverly's experience. Although young Eddie, his is pretty horrific. But now we've got zombies. I think we got 2 or 3 zombies in the movie, and I'm calling them zombies. They're just risen from the dead, so not exactly zombies like we know them, but their faces have been decomposed, and some of them are helping the character of Henry, who's been in a mental institution after he killed his father, who was a sheriff. And so his friend from the first movie is helping him. His face is deteriorated, so we don't see. And then he just disappears, and we never see him again. It was weird. So some just random stuff. So that part also lost me because it felt too forced. Yes, you got to bring in the young kids because they were the center of the story, and all the actors did really, really great jobs. So how are you going to bring them in without being too heavy-handed? And that's what it felt like. It felt like, let's do these couple of scenes. I'm not sure if that's in the book, although somebody else told me that the movie was pretty faithful to the book as far as the events. I mean, not to the exact letter, but pretty close. So they didn't veer too much. So I'm curious to see, or anybody knows who's read the books, do the adult losers, is there a flashback in the book to their younger selves? So I'd be interested to see that, because it felt, as a non-reader of the book, it felt like too forced, just a way to get them in the movie. So it didn't feel organic. And that's sad, because the young kids, they should have been the focus of the movie, but how can you if you're going to be faithful to the Stephen King book? So that's a hard task for the writers and for the directors and the producers. I mean, I feel bad for them. They had a lot of pressure going in to either stay true to the Stephen King novel, which I've heard they do, but this is a 2-hour and 49-minute movie. The book was, I believe, 1,138 pages long. So if their justification is, well, the book was long, so now we got to make this movie longer than most horror films would be, that just doesn't fly. I didn't think it was terrible. I enjoyed the adult cast. Bill Hader was the best. James Ransoni, I hope I'm not mentioning the wrong name. Yeah, James Ransoni, who plays the older Eddie, I think he was really good. I think he captured Dylan Glazer's young self, although he kept reminding me of Norman Bates. I don't know why, he looks like Norman Bates, just like that nervous energy. So I kept thinking about Psycho once in a while. I think the movie as is would have worked much better, like say on Netflix as a series where you cut them up maybe in half an hour episodes, because there's a clear progression, but what happens is you get stalled where you're like, okay, when are we going to get to defeating Pennywise? And those flashbacks to them as kids and having to overcome their fear in order to get their token didn't feel organic. It just felt like waste of time. So I'd rather have seen a cut down version of that so we can hurry up the movie, because once you get to Act 3, it's much better. It's moving along, and it did remind me of the miniseries, because I did watch the miniseries, which I wasn't a big fan of. I mean, I liked it, but I just thought the special effects were really bad. So it kept taking me out of the moment. But it did remind me of the progression of the story. So Act 3 is actually pretty good. And everybody was telling me that, so I do agree with them. I don't agree with them that it was terrible. And I wish we could have another movie with the young cast. Of course, it would have to veer from the Stephen King story. And I don't know if he would approve that. I don't know how that works as far as the rights and his stipulations on giving the rights away. But I don't know. What do you think? Would you have liked to see another movie with the kids, the Losers Club? Or do you agree that you have to stick to the Stephen King novel and not change anything? So let us know in the comments, and let us know if you're up for a 2 hour and 49 minute horror film.